honestly, you know, I don't think we're upset in any way, shape, or form. It's just we need to know what to expect, or if there is an expectation. I mean, just so we know what to do. I mean, is it going to be at what, you know, is it going to happen?
Keep putting rock on it.
Okay.
And if I talk to the...
We've got just a little bit of 3/4 rock. I don't know what's there. But if you're not against that big a rock, we could put that down too.
Yeah, not any bigger than that.
Yeah.
And I talked to Kelly Larson, if we can get them to that board to come on with, if they would buy some, would you come blade it if they put it down?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what happens in the alleys.
Okay.
If the public
She was
buys
gonna
rock
talk
for that alley, the city will put it down.
Yeah, she was going to talk to the board. If they decide to do it, well, I'll let you know. Sound good to me?
We will
That sounds
try
great.
and get something fixed for you.
That sounds great. We appreciate it very much, and you know, I hate that this was the place that we had to come discuss it, and I'm sorry for that, having to bring it to this point, but I think this helps us move forward a little bit better and know what to expect. So we appreciate it greatly, and I will let Chris and DJ Environmental are ready to know what the plan is. So
Sounds good.
Thank you guys.
Yep, see you.
Moving on, pool repairs and maintenance. George Platt, right? Is that right? Platt?
Well, thank you very much for letting me come. We said they invited me to come out and kind of assess your project that you got going on there. And she had said that pool was built by Maddox Pools in approximately 1957, something like that. And I pulled samples off of your pool to find out exactly what type of surfaces that was on there. And literally, it looks like it has the original surface from the 50s on there, 50s or 60s. And then it had been built up with what they call rubber-based paint, and it's a lot less expensive. But basically, when you start putting that paint on there, then it has an amazingly long cure time before you can actually fill it. So in turn, it starts blistering off and bubbling and that kind of stuff. And so over the years, it's got many, many layers of the rubber-based paint put on there. And so basically, my proposal is that we would strip it back down to original surface. You know, a lot of the places are going to go down to existing concrete. And then basically when everything is stripped off, I mean, I'd like to go through it and just inspect it very, very good just to make sure that there's no structural damage or anything, because I wouldn't want to put a Band-Aid on it, you know what I mean? And then, you know, because what this proposal is basically to put something that was similar to the original finish that was on the pool. And literally your pool is in pretty nice shape for the age of it. And I've done quite a few of these. And so basically structurally there's on the throat of the diving well there's one wall that actually has deteriorated a little bit, but that's also in this price. And then the other thing is that the tile that's put on there, there's a lot of loose tile and it's been repaired over the years, and I tried to find that tile, and that stuff is extinct now. And it literally goes up over the top of the gutter and then goes down the inside, and there's none of that tile available. And so I was talking to Lisa, and basically we can get the same results by basically going in and removing all the loose tile and then building it back up, filling in all the grout joints, sandblasting the tile. And actually that gutter, or the weir, the front part of it, the water actually runs over the top of that anyway. So the tile is really immaterial. It doesn't really do anything except for give you a little bit of color, and it's underneath the water line. So my proposal would be that we would remove all the loose stuff, repair all that, and then we would actually finish it right up over the top of the gutter. And so you wouldn't have tile, visible tile anymore. The other thing that I did, she had asked me to kind of assess it if I could put some type of tile on there. And literally that would be a savings of about $30,000 if you didn't actually retile it, because I'm not going to be able to go down the inside of the weir. So basically you just go up the face and then you go to the top. just because if there's none of that tile available. And if there was, literally structurally, to get that tile off of there, I would do more damage than what it'd be worth, because it'd have to be jackhammered off, and then you'd have to build it all back up and then put the tile back on it. And so I think the solution is going to give you something that's amazingly good and something that you could use for many, many years. And the most important thing with doing this is that, that whoever's going to be maintaining it in the future, that basically we don't put the rubber-based paint or any other type of paint on it except for the paint that I'm speccing out. And you could get it other places. I don't care if you get it from me or not, but basically there's a wear down point, and at about 5 to 6 years, it'll actually start chalking off where you can rub your hand on it, or you might be able to see a few roller marks on the floor or something. And that means that you can recoat it. And so if you try to recoat it prior to that, it'd be like trying to paint a mirror, because this stuff is designed to be slick and smooth and impervious to any type of chemicals and that type of thing. So I guess what I'm proposing here is doing it the least expensive way that's going to actually give you something that's going to last for the future for your pool.
So how long will it last before it has to be recoated again?
I would say that probably 10 years. And then at that point, it's not going to be anything like this, because literally we can go in there and just brush blast it real quick, and then we can put another coat on there, and then it's good for another 10 years. Or we could put 2 coats on there, because the theory is that it's all about the prep work. So if it's not prepped out right, then you're never going to get anything. I can do it for less money going in there and just blasting off the loose stuff and putting more on top of it. But the fact of the matter is that the rubber-based paint and the epoxy paint are not compatible with each other. So if you put epoxy paint and there's even a speck of that rubber-based paint on there, it would act like a paint stripper. So it would literally fall off. So that's the reason that I propose to strip it all down and make sure that you do it right once, so that you've got something that's going to last for a long period of time. And then on the back page, there's literally no governing bodies in Kansas. And I know that you've got painted numbers and stuff for as far as depth markers and non-diving. And so if you guys have any type of design that you'd want to do, I could literally lay them in the top of the coping up above the water line if you wanted some. I could inlay them into the top, and they'd be like a non-skid tile. So basically they would be flush with the concrete. It wouldn't be something that would stick up. And so they could be laid in there non-diving or depth markers. You could do it by the feet or meters or however you wanted to do it if you chose to put some of those on there.
What would be an approximate cost of recoating in 10 years? You said it wouldn't be nearly like this, but what would it be?
Well, basically you have 6,000 square feet, and it would probably be $3 a square foot.
So about 18,000.
Yeah. And at that point, because if you keep adding to that, the only thing that you're going to do is you're not going to ever be able to get a good finish in every place that the original surface is actually delaminated. Well, then you're going to get deterioration from the water chemistry and that kind of stuff. So the longer you wait, the worse it's going to get. And so, and Lisa told me that you guys might have a lot of questions too about the financial part of the deal and how it reflects on the young people in your community and maybe you have some other questions for me. I'll be glad to answer anything I can. I've been doing it for a few days.
My question is just how much time do we spend and money do we spend doing that every year?
You should have a printout.
Oh, yeah.
One thing we did talk about was that we weren't going to put the black lines in. We were just going to do on the white, because that would save time and money. We didn't have to go mark out the lanes and do 2 colors. And there is some people that come down there and swim, but they just usually go from the 3 foot to the 5 foot, the long end, and they usually don't. They're dodging kids and whatever when they go. in my time that I've spent there in the last few summers, I haven't ever seen anybody come down and really swim laps to follow those. So I thought that was something we could do to help save some money.
So does this price reflect no black lines?
Yes.
I got it. Where you coming up with the rubber-based paint, because I've done the ordering on paint for 12 years, and 10 years we actually painted, and we made a point to never put rubber-based paint down.
What type of paint do you have on there? I mean, it could be earlier than the last few
Well,
years.
if it's earlier than 12
Yeah,
years,
because-
yeah, it could be, because the
Yeah, I'm
last 12
positive
years,
that there is
I'm saying, I
some.
can show you the paint.
Yeah, what type of paint did you get?
The paint I have down at the shop right now, it comes from Pool Mark, is where we used to get it from, out of Kansas City, and that's the paint we've been using.
Is it a water base?
No,
So a xylene base, like an enamel?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
not,
so-
because I made a point not to get to rubber base because they claim other paints won't stick to it or are incompatible.
Well, that might be the
And
reason that it's
that's-
delaminating too. So if you've got your enamel on top of that, and then the rubber base is deteriorating and becoming soft. And that's literally what they do for the test. You know, when I send it in, then they'll put it in several different types of solvent, depending on what type of paint that you want to put on top of it. You know exactly what the paint is, and they could probably even tell me what the multiple layers are. You know, so it is possible.
That was there before the 12
Yeah,
years. Okay.
yeah. And that makes sense actually, just because of all the delamination, you know, so.
Okay.
The original coat was
Well,
epoxy.
I didn't want to lead everybody astray.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm positive that there's rubber base in there at some point. And that used to be extremely popular 30 years ago, you know,
Was
it
it?
was, you know, $20, $30 a gallon and everybody used it. And what happened was that it takes about 30 days for that to cure, and that's with no water on it, and nobody wants to wait that long. They wait till springtime, they paint it, go in there and they touch it and it's dry and they fill it with water, and it has what's called porosity in it, so basically the water penetrates underneath the paint and it literally delaminates it off of the original surface. Or it wasn't prepped right, or there was oils, and you know, there's a lot of things that we do to prep it just to get any oils and any foreign debris off of it. And then literally after we get it all blasted off, we go in there with a power washer too, and then we acid wash it. We use a product called trisodium phosphate that we do before we even put it on there, and that strips all the oil off of it. So, you know, it's a process that I want to make sure that it lasts a long time. I'd rather have you get something that works than you're calling me up and saying, hey, George, you know, this is paint's coming off or whatever it is. And like I said,
Well, is it true to say that it's compatible to what they use on water towers? Is that the same type, or I mean,
they
that's
use
like-
epoxy on most water towers. Yep. I mean, it's used for potable water, and you know, so that's really the best stuff to use. And the most important thing on the swimming pool is actually what touches the water. And there's two options on your pool. There's a plaster finish, which it costs a lot more, and once you get that, it's a ground up white marble and white Portland. And so the thing you have to do is that in Kansas, I mean, it's a concrete product, so any time that any moisture gets in there, and it usually happens at the water line, or then it would actually chip and chafe and that kind of stuff. It would absorb some water. So the epoxy is probably the most feasible thing that you can use. And what we actually found is that vinyl is the best product, like vinyl liners, and they use vinyl ester resins on fiberglass pools and stuff like that, but it's not really something that you guys want to do. I mean, I've literally fiberglass pools, but I wouldn't recommend it on yours. And the reason that I wouldn't is because you guys drain your pool every year, and at that point it had it'd be more like a liner inside there, and it would cost more, and it wouldn't give you any better of a product. And so this is the best value, and thinking about it sensibly by not putting the lines in and not trying to replace the tile, because I don't think that it's any benefit to you. So basically we would knock off all the old stuff that's loose and then build it back up and then refinish over the top of it and look like there was never tile there. So
And I'm sure you've seen in the corner, kind of where the L is, where that corner that needs.
Yeah, I had that.
It's been rebuilt, I think, 2 or 3 times over the years.
Yeah,
And that was patching. That was in this price.
Correct. Everything that visibly that I could see, I figured it in. And so, I mean, if we remove all the finish and we've got a real soft spot down by the main range or something like that, I don't want to just put a Band-Aid on top of it. I'd rather come and visit with the person with the authority, and we can say, okay, this is what we have down here. And so they've got all kinds of wonderful things now to patch concrete. They've even got stitches that you can put in if you got a big crack. And, you know, there's a lot of different methods that they've developed over the years. So, but I walked that pretty intensively, and I really didn't see anything that was structural in there besides that corner. You know, so that's a good sign, and it's pretty detrimental too to leave your pool empty, because what happens with that is that the subgrade freezes underneath of it, you know, 10 times a winter, so it's always pushing it up and then it thaws, and so, you know, that's just part of the method that they've used over the, you know, since the 50s and even earlier than that. And nowadays, on the newer ones that we can actually cover, we tell you guys to leave the water in it year round, and then that insulates the subgrade from freezing. And it's just like the concrete underneath of your door, you know, or your threshold when you open the door and it drags in the wintertime or something like that. And that's exactly what happens. You know, the ground freezes underneath of it, it lifts it up, it flexes the concrete, and the concrete's not designed to be flexible, so it would put cracks in it. And so, you know, you could still cover your pool, but I mean, literally it's been sitting there since 1957 the way it is, and it's really a nice old pool. So.
How does, like last summer, we had a hard time telling what was paint chips missing and what was algae growing. Does algae still grow on this epoxy paint?
Well, the algae will grow anywhere. It's just the thing that you got to realize is you got a surface, and then you've got a chip underneath this. So basically, the algae will grow underneath of that chip, and then there's no way to actually stop the contamination. You know, because you've got the thing is seeded at all times, and so you could do whatever you wanted to do, and you're probably never going to really be able to wipe it all out. You know,
but with this, we could be able to see it better, and we could hit it.
Yeah,
with
literally, there
broom
won't be chips in there anymore, or delaminated sections that would be lifted up so that basically, you know, the algae doesn't
still, like the pool employees, they can still broom it and vacuum it and all that, and that won't hurt it at all.
No, this stuff will be a lot stronger and tougher than the stuff that you guys have been using.
Okay.
Now, although you said you inspected it pretty thoroughly, wouldn't you say there's probably going to be a good chance that once it's stripped, you're going to find at least some areas that are going to need some work?
I didn't
Don't think so?
You know, like I said, I've been doing it for a few days, and literally I know what it looks like if it's delaminated or there's some structural problem with the concrete. You know, I went and tapped around on it, and you can see it would be kind of fluffed up and puffed up like that inside corner that you're talking about. You know, so I'm not saying that there's not, but I mean, just from outside visual inspection, it looked like your pool actually was very well built. So, you know, I've done a lot of these, and I think that it's in pretty decent shape. Really, it's definitely salvageable.
Is there, what kind of warranty is on that?
I'll put a 2-year warranty on it, and if it makes it to 2 years, it'll last. You know, so usually what would happen if there'd be any problem with it, it would be something that like my information that I give you as far as the cure time, you know, so basically if I got the finish done on a Tuesday and you guys filled it on a Friday, well then that would be detrimental to it. You know, because then you'd have the same effects that you'd have with the rubber base. Maybe not quite as bad, but there's no reason to shortcut any of this stuff, because I guess I'm looking at it as an investment for you guys to look for the long haul, you know. And sometimes it's better to spend a little bit more in your plan than less than you should, so that, you know, I don't want to keep putting Band-Aids on it for you, and you literally have something that's not
Well, the best time to paint it would be in July and August when we got full of water.
Yeah. Well, that is another thing too, that, you know, we're kind of getting down into a crunch period, and the springtime is always rainy and that kind of stuff, and my fear is that I wouldn't be able to get to open as soon as what you wanted to, and I would prefer to do this, you know, in the fall. Now, I probably could pull it off, but I could almost guarantee you that you're going to be at a late opening day, just because that we really want to do everything just exactly the way that we need to do it. And the fall tends to have a little less rain and you know, the temperature nice, and so I mean that's when I would prefer to do it if it works out for you guys.
So if we do this, what would you suggest we do for our pool this year? Paint it like we have been, or just
I wouldn't.
let it go and?
Yeah, I would ask the portion to clean it all up and do it and run it just like you did last year.
But should they paint it? I mean,
No, I wouldn't waste the money.
I would like to make a comment on that. We do have a little bit. I'd like,
Oh.
yeah. Other words, that paint's gonna go in the trash.
Well, what I would suggest that if you do that, I would go through there and I'd ask the portion to clean the whole thing up, and then I would spot paint it and just places that have their concrete, just so you don't waste it. And then the other thing too, it wouldn't be detrimental to have the bare concrete exposed to, you know, the water chemistry. And so that's the only thing I'd really do for you. You know, and other than that, I mean, I'm into making sure that you get the most for the least amount of money and saving your money. I understand how this works for you guys.
It's not a big money maker.
Oh, I know. So I understand.
but we've had increased attendance the last couple of years too, so.
But the profits haven't.
No, there's no problem.
The word profit does not apply.
I don't think pool and profit go in the
No,
same.
they don't, never will. There.
Well, just to put numbers to it, on a 20-year term here, if we would do this job and then recode it at 10 years, we're looking at a $5,000 a year investment versus almost $4,000 now. So on a 20-year period, and then beyond that, it's going to be less.
On that note, it's a busy time of year for those guys, and they could be doing
Right.
something else.
Exactly, and not only that, but we'd have a lot more permanent repairs made, and it would the whole thing would look better. You know, just not having popped off tiles.
My only sidebar comment is nobody mentioned this at budget time.
I get that, but we're not talking about doing it until fall anyway, and things are.
It's still
I
in the
guess-
same budget year.
I guess another question for you would be, with that information in mind, would you be willing to defer any of the payment until after January 1 of 2020? If it would help our budgeting process?
Yeah, I mean, I could either help in that way, or I could literally do it the following year too. So, you know, I like doing good work, and you know, I've done quite a few city pools in the area, and so I just want to make sure that I do it right, because I'll have my name stamped on it. And you know, like I said, I'd rather not shortcut anything, and then you guys say, hey, George, you know, what's the deal? So I'd be willing to visit with you about that.
So,
Heather, I would have brought it up, but I had no idea what we were looking at for cost. I mean, I don't own a pool, and
Well,
we've
this
never
is what
done
happened
this
last
before.
year with the DJ building, is this kind of a price, and we struggled in the general fund because of that.
No offense to you.
No.
I understand.
No, I just,
No, and I understand
you know,
exactly
this
what
is,
you guys have to budget.
Yeah, we have no idea what it was going to cost.
no,
so.
and the general fund is used by a lot of departments. It's not a utility fund that makes money. So I just want to remind everybody, and we already committed to the City Hall stonework, and we don't know what the mowing season's going to look like.
That's what I like what he said. I mean, I guarantee you, we'd love to get out painting.
Oh, I know you would.
But if we could drive on this year what we're doing, and then make sure we got him locked on for next year with the budget, I can clean up the paint we got and get rid of it. I mean, you can see that I'm gonna have to order paint for, I don't wanna see it look bad. And what little bit, I mean, basically, it looks like, to me, like we've been whitewashing it every year. So let's whitewash it another year, get him walked on, get the money put back, and make sure we get this done. I mean, it sounds like the thing to do.
And we can do part of it this fall and then pay the other part of it, like in January when our, if the next budget comes in.
Well, why don't you guys visit and find out if this is feasible, and then I'll be glad to visit with you about what I can do financially. You know, I'm not really into making business, but
Right.
Understand.
And I wouldn't expect you to be, if you were talking about painting, we drain the water after Labor Day, so you'd probably want to do it pretty close in September, right?
I would definitely like to get it before the temperature turns.
Right.
Although this stuff is a catalyzed finish, you know, it could go in, but if it freezes or something
Right.
like that, it'll actually blush, and so I'd like to get it before it starts freezing.
So I'm trying to put a time frame in.
Well, there's a question too, is would it be possible the school would forgive us for a year? To where that pool would close at the 1st of August? So they could get it painted?
I would say they're gonna have to.
You
It's
know,
our fault.
I'll still
have
don't.
plenty
No,
of time.
it's gotta be done, maintenance.
Yeah.
I mean, that gives August.
We dang sure
and
don't wanna
September
fight the
to-
That
weather.
would give,
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can go all the way up into September or October, though. I mean, I wouldn't inconvenience you for what you're wanting to do, because
But we don't normally drain it until the 1st week of September.
So that's,
but
We
we
could get
could,
it earlier.
I mean, that's still fine with me. I probably will have 6 weeks worth of stuff minimum, and that's if it doesn't rain or Murphy kicks in. So I figure a couple months. So
school starts August 15th of 2019.
I didn't know how long it needs to be dry before you can paint.
Well, that's the reason why, because I'm thinking, it just seems like you always got that week in September because we're trying to seal streets. And it seems like you better,
I know.
you know, that weather changes that 2nd week of October. Usually it's changed. So that don't give you a very big window.
well, I can do it anytime late summer. You know, and so
It would be better for you though, the earlier.
I mean, I would definitely like to complete it. You know, because if there's a window between the recoat time too, so I mean, this stuff, like I said, is catalyzed finish, so basically I wouldn't want it to go to the point that basically I'd have to go back in and brush blast it between coats. That would be,
Well, if I'm just thinking out loud here, can some of that prep work be done in the spring? If a person put it off for a year, would you be able to come in next spring and strip it down and we go ahead and fill it full of water, don't do anything, and then that fall come in? Or is that possible?
No, I
It's all
can't do
got to be
that.
done in one set.
well, the reason that I wouldn't do that, first off, if you strip it, it's gonna be extremely rough for your people, you know what I mean? And then the other thing too, that the concrete is, it absorbed the moisture, and so it'd become soft and flaky, and then I'd have to go back in and blast it again. And so I prefer just to go and do it all at once and bring it down to a solid surface, because I don't know what the pH is and stuff. I don't know how good your operator is, I guess. And anything under 7.0 with the pH, well, then it becomes corrosive, and so it would actually deteriorate the concrete. And so, and I don't know what they're using for chemicals. Is the tablets,
Gas.
We use gas.
Chlorine.
gas?
And they do have powder too.
Okay. Well, the gas is, it's usually, the side effect on that is the pH wants to climb, but they counteract it with muriatic acid probably.
Well,
And so,
Sodium.
we had a couple instances last year where we had to close the pool and chlorinate the heck out of it for enclosed for 24 hours. Would that, the
I'll
high
be glad
chlorine
to-
level wouldn't,
I don't know. The secret behind the swimming pool is preventive maintenance, you know what I mean? So basically, you're treating it to keep it healthy all year, and it's like, you know, the bigger the body of the water, the slower it changes. So, I mean, I would even be interested in giving whoever your staff is, if you have anybody new, you know, directions on, you know, what you really should try to keep it at. And literally, you should never have a time that you'd have to lose it, you know, where it turns green on you or something like that if you're doing everything right.
No, we just had a
Somebody
kid get sick,
Gotcha.
and KDHE rules say you have to close for 24 hours and raise the chlorine to a certain level.
Yep. Well, you literally do that about every 2 weeks anyway if you're doing it right.
Yeah, super
And so what that is like you'd have a glass of tomato juice that you had the night before and you left your glass out, you know, and it's got these hunks of tomato hunks on it. You try to rinse it out and nothing happens, but you fill it up with water and put some Clorox in there and it'll actually evaporate the chloramines and any kind of bacteria or any detrimental stuff. So, and you can actually test for that too. So, but rule of thumb about every 2 weeks. And so you want to burn off all the swimmer's waste and the used up chlorine. So I mean, that's not unusual.
Okay.
Question on, in terms of pricing, if we wait till 2020, how much price increase would you expect?
I don't know. I mean, it would just basically be the materials.
Right.
You know, I've had my guys working with me for 25 years, and you know, so I mean, usually they don't change that much.
Okay.
So
Now, does your company do all this work, or do you subcontract part of it?
I do all of it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Some things I do subcontract out. It depends on how busy we are. But if I do that, it's somebody that actually I've worked with for years, and you know, I'm still over here the same amount of time, so it doesn't really there's no benefit for me to do it. It really would take work away from my people. So, and that's why I prefer to schedule it out there a little bit, so we're not trying to rush and make some hasty decisions.
I'm going to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that we know that it was built in 57. I was 20 years old in 57. Long gone. Our mothers took us to Salina and swim in the cold water, or to Beloit and swim in the warm water. Well, we like to go to Beloit. But anyway, what would that, I don't know if you've said it or if anybody has said it, what would it cost to replace the swimming pool? Rough. I heard one town did that.
$4 million.
Yeah. Well,
For a pool comparable to that.
Yeah. Well, that's just what I wanted to hear, because it's not feasible.
No, you don't want to do that.
Well, no.
I mean, because there's very few, and normally it's communities like Salina or someplace that want to put a water park in that they think that they're going to draw from the surrounding areas for people to.
But I just thought it was good for the public to hear what it's going to cost as opposed to what a brand new.
It's really a nice pool, and I'm pretty sensible when it comes to that stuff. I'm all into. I understand why you guys have the pool. It's not for you guys to swim, and it's not to get people coming in. It's for the young people in the community, and so it's an investment for the young people and the people of the community. It's not a money-making thing.
So it's all for the community.
Yeah.
And honestly, besides maintenance issues that we had to do, we haven't really done, since I've been on council anyway, anything to the pool other than, replace broken water lines when they break. And
But there is a perception, though, that it's been a troublesome thing. And to think that comparing to what a new one would be with what can be done to make it where it should be.
Well, even if it's a brand new pool, there's still things that you have to do to it. And I think I talked to your assistant, and basically he said all the plumbing and everything is in good shape. So
I know this is also a question, but you are insured.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
It's just a question that needs to be asked.
No, I understand.
Well, I'd like to work on something that we could do it as soon as possible, but of course we got to be able to budget it too. So,
well, why don't you guys visit about it? I'll be glad to come back out. It sounds like we're going to use up the old paint now. Just The only thing I would say is that I would definitely rather work in Lincoln than Goodland. So.
I hear you.
We'd rather you work in Lincoln than Goodland.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, do you have any other questions for me? And, my number's on the top of that, and if you have any questions, anybody can call me. I'll be glad to either stop back up or visit with you on the phone. And I appreciate the time.
We appreciate you coming
Thank you
up.
for answering all my questions. And
There's, like I said, I'm open for any kind of questions. I've seen a few things.
So we're glad you're in Salina and not Kansas City.
Yeah, yes.
I love what I do, and like I said, this is my 40th year, so I've seen a few things. So, well, with that, I'll pass, and thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. We appreciate your time.
Yep, no problem. Remember not to hesitate to call me if you have any questions. Okay, thank you very much.
Moving on, Public Information Officer, Lincoln Housing Authority.
The Lincoln Housing Authority asked me to put this on the agenda. They're trying to apply for grants, and in order to do so, the city needs to designate someone as the public information officer. Typically, that's the mayor in most communities.
What if somebody else wants it, they can have
Why do you want to be untypical?
it. Yeah, well.
It needs to be somebody that can speak to the public, but still be able to get information on finances or something from the office and be in contact with the city superintendent if it's electrical, if we have a disaster or something. For example, Greensburg, their mayor spoke. Any town that has a disaster or something. Well, let's hope we don't, but they need one designated so they can apply for grants.
We appoint our illustrious mayor as public information officer.
I second.
Thank you much.
Did it when the tornado came through.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, I forgot to ask. What's this?
Just as well as your other one.
Okay. Moving on, electrical systems. Okay, Board of Directors, Director number 1, reappointment. Hopefully Mr. Crispin will take it.
I would be glad.
well, on that note, I move we appoint Jack Crispin as to the KMEA Board of Directors.
I second it.
Before he changes his
Before he
mind.
changes his mind, that's right. Any more discussion, council, on the reappointment? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Reappointment. Your job pays exactly the same too, Jack.
Twice as much.
All right, the agenda amendment, KMEA again.
Just you've gotten this ballot to add LaHarpe, Kansas to KMEA. Aren't you one of our delegates?
Jeff is.
Jeff. Well,
He's probably got it.
okay. KMEA occasionally gets a city that would like to become a member of our organization. LaHarpe, Kansas is now petitioning to become a member, and I will be voting on that, and I wanted to bring it to the council, and if anybody has any objection or comments, I'd be glad to listen to them. Personally, I'm all in favor of getting as many cities into this organization as possible. It just gives us more voice and more power to carry out what we need.
What was the name of the town?
That was my question.
That's what I said. L.A.
L-A and then capital H-A-R-P-E.
So is there a question for, I guess, is there a lot of cities that are not on it?
Yeah, there's
Yes.
still quite a few.
Is there really?
Yeah.
They're
That's
joining
surprising.
little by little,
Yep.
because there's 3 EMP2s, right? Now?
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3.
I would think they would all want to be on
Hearing no objection, I will cast that ballot.
Sounds good. Anything else on that?
Nuisance report.
That's a new year.
Yes,
We're
season's about to start.
I know. Look at this.
we're not getting very far with the college. We had last year the city put out a letter to everybody. There's 127 abandoned college. 50 of them in this last year have been removed, but we've had an addition of 22. So now we have down to 99. And I met with Mr. Metz, and we're working on a plan of what our next step needs to be. One of the questions that I need help with is where if the city does impound these, if we're going, where are we going to store all these? Or are we going to use a local? So we got some research to do of what plan of attack. And the ordinance has got some places in there that's kind of got a gap, and Mr. Metz said he would help me.
Does it have to be like in a fenced-in area, or can they just be put on a lot, or is there rules to?
That's what we're looking at.
Okay.
Safe rules are secure, to have it secure.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're targets for any kind of problem. But reason has to rule. And as Jeff said, we had a good long talk about it. We got some plans on what could be done with the car problem. But is to get some kind of a secure impoundment place, or reasonably secure.
So if we impound a car and move it to this secure lot, wherever it turns out to be, how long do we have to hold it there before we can determine something to do with it?
Well, there has to be some notice involved, of course, if you have any notion as to the owner. The whole point of it is abating the nuisance. Once that's done, then that's where the impoundment comes in, just to physically get rid of it. And, there are some services that we talked about before that come and get cars, but we have to make a diligent effort to locate the owner, and in that dead time is where the impoundment would have to occur.
Okay, so we have to figure out who the owner is before we actually move the car, don't we?
Well, we try to,
Okay.
if it's possible.
So my question is, we've done that, we've tried, and we have no contact. We move, or either we don't know who we're trying to contact, or they're not responding. And we move it to the lot. How much longer do we have to have it locked up before we can call a company to come crush it?
10 days at minimum, and probably 30 most likely.
So we're looking at a month in confinement. 99 cars, we're never going to find any place to put 99 cars. Can you think of a place where we could put 1, 2, 3 cars?
We talked about maybe at the old sewer plant, but it's just a barbed wire fence with a locked gate. There is some room down there, but we've also had some theft down there, so that's not what you call 100% secure. I mean,
Is there any room on your lot behind the shop?
no.
I didn't know. I just thought I would ask because that's got a fence and.
I mean, maybe for 1 or 2, but I wouldn't want them there very long because they'd be in the way where we got everything parked around the outside. You don't constantly be moving it. And I don't know, we talked about too, I wish there was something you could have some kind of incentive to make them say, just, and I know I'm dreaming, but to where something be added to the letters when we send them out to where it say, you just give it to the city and the city comes and remove it. But I don't know if that works.
Well, this could be encouraged somewhat like the lot, the nuisance lots, that sometimes ultimately appeals to an owner, and I would think there would be a situation where owner of a piece of junk would excuse me, allow it to be forfeited to the city, and then you can catch the next truck, the flat truck. But
Yeah, I didn't know if that would help some of them, where they say, well, I just don't know how to get rid of it or whatever.
And that's an option. I know we're not the only city battling this. This is across the whole state. And everybody's stuck because it's personal property. How long do you have to hold it? And everybody's like, well, landlords, if somebody don't pay the rent, and they have to hold this stuff for so many days, but where it's a city, like, nobody's broke the way, really, that I'm going to conference next month, so hopefully I will find out a city has made it past this, but all of us are in the same standstill. We know we have a problem. Nobody has the space to stack up cars. You can't stack them up because it's somebody's property. You can't damage it. You have to protect it, and there's liability. So there's all these no's.
I think the smartest thing to do would be to let a towing company handle it, just like the highway patrol does when they have one towed off the road. They go to the towing company's impound lot, and then the tow company has to deal with it from there. And there are laws where the tow company can get title for the vehicle with, against the approval of the owner if they don't claim it within a certain time period. And that's why, like Auto House in Salina, they have a couple of big auctions yearly where they invite the public in to buy vehicles that have been abandoned.
most of those are storage lien type
Correct.
foreclosures, so.
Correct. But it's still a government body calling them to come get it. And I don't know if the state has to pay the tow bill when they make the call to come get it. I don't know that, but I would assume that just goes against the lien on the vehicle.
I'm not up on the ordinance as far as, but if a car's parked on the street and it's not tagged or insured, is that
Inoperable, obviously, and not registered currently.
is that against city ordinance?
That
I mean,
comes under the
It has to be taxed.
abandoned vehicle ordinance.
And that's what you're talking about, 99 vehicles on city streets?
I would say, I don't think any of these are on the street.
So they're all on private property?
I think so. There was a couple that were on streets, but they've been removed.
Yeah. But it still would involve us going in
Oh,
on
yeah.
private property to retrieve them.
And some of them, like the one that's in my area, you can't get to.
There's several of them like that.
And there are trees growing around them and all that kind of thing.
been there
3 or
for
4 legal
Been there-
cars
Been there a
parked
long time.
around the illegal one.
But there's some where it's,
Well,
you got
obviously,
trees and buildings around, I mean, that's.
I guess you pick your battles. You get the ones that have obviously been there the longest first, if possible. But another problem that I guarantee is going to come up with this, there's a lot of those cars sitting out there that nobody can go lay their hands on a title for. So you're going to have to get these people and I've been through this with cars that people have abandoned on my lot. I mean, you can bring them the paperwork with a self-addressed stamped envelope, and they won't send off to get the title so you can get rid of the thing. And so that's going to be another issue.
That's what I'm talking about other cities are dealing with. People are like, yeah, you can have it, but then all they got to do is fill out this paperwork and we can get rid of it, and you can't get them to follow through.
Right.
That's what
Some
the
cities
storage
have
lien
thought
comes in.
about offering
Right.
them $50 a car just to fill out the
And
paperwork.
like Dan said, that's where the storage lien comes in, because if you get a certain amount against the vehicle for a certain amount of time, then you apply for the title, and the state gives the title, and then you can scrap or sell the vehicle.
But with a record company being involved with that, it's even that to do with it.
Correct. You wouldn't have to have an impound lot or worry about the insurance concerns of having that lot, or if the vehicle gets damaged while it's being towed, that's all. Because I don't think the city wants to be the ones towing these. I think you want to let somebody that's established to do that, because there's a whole other set of laws governing how all that works.
That's one of the gaps in the ordinance. It says some of the laws about what happens when it's impounded. They don't address how it gets impounded.
I would find a tow company that's willing to tow them at no charge to the city in exchange for whatever storage fees they would stand to make. That's what I would do. And then basically with the understanding that probably 99% of them, they're going to have to go through the lien process to get title, to get rid of them, and that company will know exactly what they're getting into in terms of time. But as long as we're to the point where we're okay to go get the vehicle, whatever we've got to do on our end to do that, and then just once it hits that point, just turn it over to the tow company and let them go collect it.
So my question is, I guess the ordinance states if it's not tagged or insured, it's an it's a vehicle that is subject to those.
Not tagged, not insured, if it can't move on its own, if it hadn't been moved. Some of the things they can get by with is if it's under a car tarp or if it's in the garage or whatever, it's not abandoned.
That's what I'm at. Okay.
But there is certain things.
I know there's people that are, that was great grandpa's.
Well, they have a
vehicle,
chance.
and
Once they get the certified letter, they have 10 days to either remove it or contact the city and establish a hearing.
Okay.
And then they can come in and argue the point why that car is there.
So if they've
So
got
it's a process, and we haven't got that far yet. No, we're trying to do this, and hopefully, I mean, one gentleman removed 5 cars. Some people jumped and got on it, and then other people added.
And those same people are coming in having a fit because they jumped, and several haven't.
They
and
said,
I
I
know
removed mine, I wanted the rest of these, and that's what
So
we're fixing.
if they've got carport over it, they're okay. Carport, garage.
Even if it doesn't have a tag or.
And if it's in the carport, they said under covering, if I have to read that again, if it's another thing, there's a couple that are by shop. If it's a car shop or a guy's got a shop that you actually see working on stuff, I ignored them. The ones I picked on are just.
Means you're safe, Elijah.
Well, I wasn't worried about
So your cars that
But I
you
can
shop.
think of several guys with hobby shops.
Right,
around,
there is some
you
of
know.
them around, and there's a couple here in town. I know they're working on stuff. Those I kind of ignored because they were sitting in the weeds. They got them right up next to their shop.
Right.
So
Yeah,
moving
grass-
out there like they're working
grass
on it.
hasn't
So
grown up
I looked the other way, but I'm sure there's going to be some people, there always is, that's going to fight it. It's just, it's going to take it's going to take some man hours and some money for registered letters. And I mean, that's the next thing we're going to do.
I'd say if that's the next thing on your list, I'd get after it.
Yes. The thing is once we do that, you got 10 days, and we have to have a plan
Of
what we're going to do. That's where we're at.
Right.
That's where I'm saying. That's where we're sitting right now. Once you pull the trigger, you got to have a target right now.
Ain't no sense in sending a certified letter if you ain't got the second step.
Yeah, if you ain't got no way to enforce it.
Right. So that's where we're at. And you're all over this, right, Dan?
We're all over it. That's right.
Okay. Anything else on nuisance report?
No.
City official report, city attorney.
Don't have anything we want to talk about.
City clerk?
Just want to let you know I'm going to the City Clerks Conference. I will officially be sworn in on the Board of Directors.
City Superintendent report.
Oh, I do, and I forgot to bring the information. We need lawnmowers. We got 4 of them that got over 2,000. I think they're close to 2,500 hours. I'd like to be able to get some prices. There's 4 of them for sure. I don't. It depends on what the prices are. 2 of them I might just say go away, but definitely 2 new mowers, maybe 4. What we're looking at. The bigger ones are the ones that we're picking on. I went by the years and by the hours. Right now we're looking at probably 30 horse, so it's not going to be. It's going to be an expensive mower.
My question is, bigger mower, less mowers. Does that save money? One less guy running a mower is what I'm getting at. Man hours.
Right. Well, these are the big mowers that need to be replaced. They're 72 inch.
Right.
And we had the smaller mowers from like for cemetery and stuff.
Right. I understand we got to have the small ones too.
But as far as they could be bigger mowers, yes, it would help. You need both.
Right. I understand. You can't go around them headstones with the big ones.
It's just your bigger mowers. You're talking
big money.
Twice the money probably.
Are these all grasshoppers?
2 Dixons and 2 grasshoppers. And the Dixons they don't make anymore.
So are you going to get like trade-in value, or are you going to try and see what you
We're
get?
going to try to.
That's what I do.
I was going to say, because last time didn't we get money out of our old grasshopper that?
They gave a little bit. I like to trade them because they go away.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they just sit there and deteriorate. I mean, if you don't get nothing, I'd like cleaning messes up.
Right.
And have it go away. And that's where 2 of them are really old. And I call somebody to have them come up and do a value on them.
Speaking of that, I was thinking, don't we still have that old bucket truck or pole truck?
Yes.
I was thinking, I know I'm on they have all auction stuff. I wonder if we ought to contact them. Spring's usually a good time to get rid of some of that stuff.
We got a couple of things that need to go away.
That would be a good place to get rid of and make them disappear instead of.
Purple Wave.
Yes.
We could get them a contact.
I was just thinking that when you brought the mowers up.
Didn't we sell the old fire truck on Purple Wave?
They probably
Didn't we
go
sell that
better.
old ladder
I think
truck on
so.
Purple Wave?
I think so. I know the county sells stuff on there all the time. So that'd be a good place to get rid of some of that stuff that's sitting.
So you're thinking 30 horse, those are probably what, 15,000 neighborhood?
I'm guessing 15, 16, that's a guess. I know we need to get prices of different types, but with her mentioning, and hopefully you don't put this in the paper, but the grasshopper is unbeatable mower. It's been our best mower. We've tried other mowers. They just don't stand up. We got some other mowers with us, so I would hope once we look at the numbers that the council will take that into consideration, because they are a good mower.
I think we spend enough time on it that we know what's a good mower and what ain't.
So I'll try to get 3 different type of mowers for this appointment.
Compare. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Meyer?
I don't think so.
Governing body.
Since I won't be here next month, what do we want to do with this pool stuff? And just FYI, I did contact more than him. I contacted a Joe Tucker, who I called them twice, and they said, "Oh yeah, we're coming. We'll either call you back this afternoon or tomorrow to set up a time," and I'm still waiting. Salina Custom Sandblasting, they never returned my call. Miller Sandblasting and Painting never returned my call. Ebling Pools, they didn't do it. Brewer sandblasting out of Hutch, they did it, but they really didn't want to come to Lincoln. Warren Brothers out of Great Bend, I called and left them a message too, and I haven't heard anything back. So I tried to get more than one bid, but nobody wants to do it.
I think they're still going to be required to put it out on bid, aren't we, when we get to that point? But if we don't get any response, we just send bids or bid requests to 3 of them off your list, and more than likely all we'll have is Pools Plus to look at. But I think we're still, with that amount of money, we're still going to have to officially request bids.
It's a bidding issue.
Okay, so how soon do we need to do that so they can get that on their calendar for like August, September?
Yeah.
I would assume.
Depends on the money, what the money gal says here.
Well,
Is there a way to work this? I can't imagine he's going to want to hold off on.
right, that's how I
Too much
feel.
of
We're
it's
asking him to sit off on money. Well, here's
We
what
don't have to. I just asked the man the question.
Yeah,
Because if
and
he's,
he probably
if he's
won't
hungry
do it.
for work this fall,
I understand, but we're talking about mowers.
Yeah.
That's general fund. Unless he uses equipment reserve, which I already know that we have a high ranger that's acting up.
The High Ranger is acting up, and we
And
also have the sewer
still have a
machine.
sewer machine issue, so I'm trying to leave that money alone. So we're talking about general fund for mowers. We're talking about City Hall building,
But it's just temporary till after the first,
right?
right? So can we float, say this is an $80,000 project and he's willing to sit on $20,000 of it. Can we afford $60,000 to pass through till the first of the year?
Somebody's gonna have to give up something. We're gonna
We
have to.
don't have enough to.
The only thing I can say is you better hope that Jess don't do street work. I mean, I feel like it's tight. I feel like it would be safer to just budget and over budget next year. I know that's not what anybody wants to hear, but I don't want to be the person that says we can do it and end up in a wreck. I don't feel comfortable making that decision, especially knowing we need mowers.
Where did the limestone work for the City Hall come from?
It's coming out of general.
But didn't that come in under budget though? Because you had budgeted quite a bit more for that than what the bid actually came in at.
Yes, and the pool also overspent last year. So okay, I brought the budget back here because everybody just looks at it and says, great.
Instead of getting real mad, you can just say no.
Well, there's different funds in the general fund. As long as we don't overspend the general fund as a whole, we're okay. So we rough estimate general, police, street, fire, park and pool, the rec, street lighting, and rec, that means the appropriation, the $25,000 we give to them. Street lighting, cemetery, airport, don't forget the $200,000 we've earmarked. They may not need it. If they don't, if he don't get the grant this year, we could steal out of that. But if he gets the grant, we can't.
When will he know?
March. That's
It's
when they
coming
announced
up.
last time.
I talked to Clay and he felt like the chances were really good.
I think they probably are. That's the way it's been happening.
Yeah.
So in this, we have our funds, but last year what you don't understand is the park with the industrial park that was not budgeted, that was $80,000 that just everybody else had to rearrange around. So we didn't overspend, but that made it, because of the spending more than anticipated, that made our carryover way less. So when you anticipate to carry over $800,000, you only carry over, $600. That brings your spending down, and that's what people don't understand. This is a guessing game. I'm guessing in June where we're going to be in December. I did not know it was going to rain, and we were going to be mowing all summer long. So not only did we have the industrial park, we had massive mowing happening this year and repairs on mowers. And I know he needs new mowers because that's all the power plant guys did was fix mowers this summer for the guys.
Well, we're looking at $60,000 to $80,000, and I really have a feeling that once he gets that sandblasted, he's going to find some other areas it's gonna have to be patched. I don't know if that's 10,000 or 20,000 or what, but I just have a gut feeling that there's gonna be stuff that he's gonna find. I really think we ought to move this out to 2020. Get it in the budget like we're supposed to, not try to fudge 60 to 80 to 100,000 out of this year's budget and hope that we can make it through to the first of the year. I hate putting it off another year, but I think that's the best way to do it.
Plus, we got paint to use that we need to get used up anyway.
We can.
Well, but if we do it in 2020, if he knows about it
we
ahead
need
of
to
time,
commit.
maybe we could get on his agenda so he could do it in the spring. You know what I mean? Because he said he's booked now. Because he said he could do it, but it would be pushed. But if
I think he's more concerned about weather
Than he is too.
Yeah, I felt
He
like
wants
it
to
was
do it in
always
the
weather.
fall.
Yeah.
The budget's got to be finalized in August, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we've got to have made the decision. You're going to put the preliminary budget together in June, isn't it?
Yes.
So realistically, we've got to make this decision for 2020 in 4 months to have it in the budget that would be approved in August. So he's going to have over a year's worth of advance notice, regardless of how this happens.
Yeah.
And still, you need to put it out for bid.
Right.
what is bid? I mean, how long do you have to give him? 30 days?
30 days.
So if we were, let's say we decided to play it safe, we want to build 100,000 into 2020
I
budget.
think we should,
Yes.
to be safe.
Then that happens in June, we approve it in August, we put it out for bid, and those guys know they're not gonna start on until fall of 2020 anyway.
And we put that in the bid, saying
Right.
we want it done in the fall.
At the end of the pool, upon pool closure in
Yeah.
2020. Yeah.
I think that's the best way to do
And,
it.
you know, if we use up the paint materials that we've got this year, and then he was saying just let it go the next year, if we know it's
Even
gonna
if
get
we have to buy a few
refinished.
more gallons for.
Right.
Right. Just to make it look presentable, and that's what
Yeah.
we've normally been doing, is trying to make it presentable and get through another year.
And honestly, like last year, like a month in, it looked bad anyway because there was so much paint chipping
Right.
off.
But
What are
you
you
gotta
talking
realize,
about? He said
every
that
year
it
that you
was in
do
good
that, what
shape.
she's concerned about is we got a timeline.
Yeah.
We get it, we paint it a week before.
Yeah, you
No
only got
matter
time to
what,
do it.
we paint it, and then we let it cure for a week, and then it goes.
Yeah.
Some years you got dry weather, some years it's raining, some years you got humidity coming up, and that's what he's talking about, is to get away from them elements. We don't have that blessing. We go like heck, paint a week before,
Hope it
1
doesn't
week cured, hope it don't rain. If it does, it don't matter. We fill it.
We're filling it.
We're filling it.
Hey, I was going to ask him why he was even here. He said it was in good shape. Huh?
Structurally.
Oh,
Structurally.
Lisa, okay.
What he said was it's worth saving.
I thought he meant.
60-year-old pool is
Oh, I thought he
We
meant.
don't
Why
need
would
a-
you drop 78,000 on this thing?
I was impressed that he was impressed by you
Yeah.
saying that.
Yeah, I was kind of impressed
Quartzite
myself.
concrete.
Yeah.
That's the old Plante.
There you go. That's quartzite.
So I'm going to put in the minutes the planted budget in 2020 for pool repairs.
Okay.
And so, do we need a motion to put it out for bid, or what?
That needs to happen.
Until we get the budget.
You
Okay.
wouldn't ask somebody to bid something. Did you bid anything 18 months ago?
Maybe the only things are going.
He's into building high-rise hotels now. You
Right.
gotta bid
Yeah.
that way out.
Is it okay if I call him and tell him that's what we're going to do, and then we'll ask him for an updated bid?
Yeah, tell them we're
Closer
gonna
to
have to several suppliers.
Okay. Okay. That way he doesn't.
Yeah,
He's
we
not
don't want him
left
to
not
jump ship.
handy.
And I think we need to let him know that we're trying to be fair to him too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I cannot imagine a business wanting,
No.
I wouldn't do, I'm sorry, I wouldn't do it that way.
Do what?
Pay part of it now and commit to
Yeah.
part of it later, and you do all the work now. I don't like that.
I do it every day.
I know you do.
Me too.
Well, hey, we do too, to some extent, but I would, not this kind of money though. I don't like that.
No, I don't
Okay.
like it either.
Okay, I will
Just
call
bad
him
business.
and tell him our plan.
I think that'd be fair. Sounds good. Anything else, governing body?
I have one quick question. Did we ever get a response back from Kinder Morgan on that?
Yeah,
right away?
they're not budging, but I tried to call him again today. I didn't get him, or I left a message for him to call back
Okay.
What's that regarding?
That right away offer.
on the structure out there.
So we gave them our bid, and they never.
Well,
we've
kept some authority in reserve.
Okay.
They just came back on the initial amount that I said to them. They came back and said we don't want to stay with their amount.
Which were less than our attorney fees to file the return. It was like $500.
Not hard to be less than what those attorneys do.
Anything else, Mr.
No, that's
Keever?
it.
I
Lou?
don't have-
Jack?
Well, I don't really have a story, but I had kind of a random thought this evening that I'd share with you. I had to make a run this line of the day and found a little bit of chicken, Kentucky Fried Chicken.